In today's video, we're going to look at a really popular example within socio-hydrology called the tragedy of the commons, about a group of farmers that accidentally deplete a shared water resources by acting on their own individual behaviors and interests. If you don't know what socio-hydrology is or what a coupled human water system is, click on this introductory video over here, and with that, we'll jump right into the example. Pretend you are a farmer. Your name is Farmer Sally, and you've been farming on your land for many decades, many generations in fact. You're like a 7th generation farmer. For the most part, there's always been enough water in this land your family has held for you guys to grow your crops. Y'all kind of learned in general when the water would come, and you built your whole farming schedule around that. But recently, things started to change. The rain stopped coming for longer and longer periods of time. Dry spells got really extreme, and the rainfall that used to always be enough for your crops, it suddenly wasn't enough anymore. And you start to worry. You definitely don't trust the government to bail you out, and you decide, okay, instead of relying on rainwater like my family has done for all these generations, I'm gonna have to start pumping water out of the underground aquifer. Now, this pumping will cost a little something to set up and run, but I'll just fold it into the price of the crops, and we need the water anyway. And if I don't do it, my neighbors certainly will, and they're gonna outcompete us. So to be smart, we need to start pumping. Your next door neighbor, her name is Farmer Sue, and she's not that worried. She has faith that, well, it'll probably rain again, and if it doesn't, the government will probably step in and help us, and if they don't, my neighbors will definitely help us. Sue has a lot more optimism, so she decides to stay the course. Same drought, same physical conditions of the water cycle, but two completely different behavioral responses, driven by our internal human perceptions of risk. Now, let's assume Sue is an outlier, and most of the farmers in your community think like you, Sally. We're realists, right? We see the same thing. The droughts are getting longer, and no one is coming to save us. If we don't pump, everyone else will anyway, so to save my business, I need to start pumping too. And over time, the water table starts to drop drastically. And suddenly the aquifer is getting pretty empty. There's been a little bit of rain lately, but it hasn't been enough to refill this aquifer. So everyone starts to panic. The pumps that we could afford can't reach that low. What are we going to do? Some people, they actually start to completely have to close down their farms because they can't keep up. And other people decide to move out of the community entirely. They say, enough of this, I'm going where it rains more. Big ag comes in, and they have plenty of money. They can pump super deep, and they eventually outcompete most of the small community farmers. The only people left standing after a while are these big conglomerates with deep pockets. And the food prices, they spike for all of us consumers, and they stay elevated. The thing that drove this conceptual human water system, but based on very real world stories, is that these unintended consequences were not just the result of the fact of there being a drought. It was the result of this drought coupled with internal fear by humans and mistrust. So internal economic calculus made by very smart farmers, and so they made understandable human actions, and these compounded across an entire community over many years. And together, they ended up rewriting the hydrology of this region. They determined how much water was left underground and where it went and who got it, and where water started getting used in new regions as some of the farmers had to move. And we could just as easily imagine the same drought happening, but what if the community were made up of a bunch of Farmer Sues? Maybe this group trust each other more based on some internal culture that they have. Maybe they believe the water will come back, and so they limit pumping to just enough to get through the drought, and they come up with some kind of communal subsidies to buy time while they can shift toward less water-intensive crops. Same drought, different human responses. So now you can see how maybe understanding the types of people groups that are interacting with water would help us understand how the system may start to co-evolve over time, and maybe what kinds of implementation measures to be considering beyond just measuring drought conditions and aquifer levels. And am I saying that Farmer Sue is better than Farmer Sally? No. These farmers just happened to have different experiences before the drought came up, so they connected to water differently and to one another. And so this determined what behaviors arose when they were both hit with the same drought, and how these behaviors could compound across entire communities and rewrite hydrology. These are things that are much harder to measure and model, even with the best equipment or the best weather models. And instead, we must understand them more as fundamentally human and societal in nature, but also intricately united with these more hard-scale physical water models and equations. So two types of farmers, two very different outcomes. And in both cases, the thing that drove the system wasn't the physics of the water itself. It was beliefs, memory, risk perception, trust, human variables that are invisible in any rainfall model, but compounded, they quietly move across years and decades and can reshape the hydrology itself and the decisions that people make, which eventually determines whether we can live harmoniously with water or be ultimately humbled by it. To learn more about coupled human water systems, like and subscribe to this channel, and check out our other example video about the levee effect to learn more about a real-world coupled human water system example that has played out across countless cultures. Thank you. Bye-bye.